Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We would like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park's championship meet runs now through March 30th with high-quality action throughout, including the Florida Derby on Saturday, March 29th. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by Gabe Prewitt. I think it was, I was going to say a month ago. I think it was less than a month ago. He was named the GM and the VP out at Hoosier Park, and they kicked off their season on the sulky side of things last night. But over the last few weeks, they've announced some interesting changes for their upcoming season. So I thought we'd set up the season a little bit and hear about some of those changes. That'll be a little bit later on. Speaking of changes, though, she has changed her venue, spends most of this season down at Turfway. But Kaitlin Free spending the 3 days for the Virginia Derby meet at Colonial Downs. So who better to talk to about today's Virginia Derby and Virginia Oaks than Kaitlin Free? Kaitlin, good morning.
Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well over there.
We definitely are. We're looking forward to the inaugural dirt version of the Virginia Derby with some Kentucky Derby points on the line, an intriguing field in there. Before we get to that, what's your weather look like today?
Weather's looking a little dreary. I don't think it's going to rain. I think it's going to kind of be that overcast it's been the last couple of days. High 60s, low 70s is kind of what we're planning for. So not that bad, all things considered, but I prefer it to be a little warmer. Okay,
so we'll keep our eyes open in that direction. Let's jump right in. Virginia Derby is going to be the 9th race this afternoon. It'll go off at about 5:10. $500,000 up for grabs. A unique one-turn mile and an eighth. I pulled up a replay of a horse that clearly is going to take a lot of action just because of the connections, obviously. The Sunland Derby back on February 16th. It's going to be the number 4 getaway car. This is a Bob Baffert trainee who is shipped in from Southern California. I'm looking at that one certainly with the connections. A Rapture for Brad Cox. I had Brad on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he said he was going to enter both Rapture and John Hancock. One would go here, one likely to the Louisiana Derby, and that looks like the path for John Hancock. So the one that remains, Rapture, intrigues me. Render Judgment, America's Promise. Nice field in here. How did you see the Virginia Derby?
It is a really, really nice field. We do have 3 scratches in that race. Aside from John Hancock, Calling Card and Georgia Magic are both not going to go. So the 1, the 2, and the 10 all going to come out. But I ended up on Rapture in this race. I really like the way he broke his maiden last time out. The second career start, he gave Bossimo all he could handle in that first career race over at Gulfstream. So it's supposed to continue to stick out really, really nicely with distance. The mile and an eighth is clearly going to be no issue whatsoever for him. But I think he's going to be one that's going to be able to handle the one-turn type of a distance. It's definitely really tricky, kind of almost sprinting for a mile and an eighth. Getaway Car is another horse I think that will do pretty well over it, but he's a horse that wants to be forward. And the forward types of horses, I've only seen one gate-to-wire winner in 16 races that we've ran over the last couple of days. So the track is playing not really to speed. It's playing the mid-pack or horses that are kind of more forward in a stalking or a pressing type of a position. So speed up front, this really isn't holding because the track is so fast. So I think that kind of puts Getaway Car back against the wall a little bit. So kind of makes me really intrigued in a horse like Rapture.
Yeah, I think it's a fun field. There are Derby points on the line, and you got some of the big names with Baffert and Brad Cox and Kenny McPeak showing up, and on the jockey side, Irad Ortiz is on Getaway Car, Flavian Prada on Rapture, some of the big names in town. So it's going to be a fun afternoon, highlighted by the Virginia Derby, but also on the card, the Virginia Oaks, $250,000 up for grabs. This one, a mile and a 16th. I like Goel's Delight, but I saw last night that one is a likely scratch, and Girl Math is also out. So Anonima, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the other Kenny McPeak horse is intriguing to me. I'm kind of a dud in the Honeybee, but I think the horse is better than that. Early on, maybe a player for Safi with Flavian Prada on board. You'll Be Back, the Tommy Amos runner, I think is intriguing. What did you see in the Oaks?
Yeah, Golos Delight ended up coming out for Kitty McKeek. Gromath is also out. We got a field of 6 at this point. The two that I'm looking at really significantly both stayed in the race. It's going to be Fondly for Grand Motion as well as Akana Mama. So definitely interested in those two. Fondly, I think, is really going to handle the 1 mile and 16. He was really impressive on debut. Was kind of stuck down inside and not able to get into that. She was kind of stuck down inside for the most part. When she was able to finally find room, she was able to get through and came up and was an impressive winner when she was finally able to find ground. So very, very impressive win for her that day. And is going to be making a second career start here. So is going to get that added extra ground. I think it's something that's going to play in her favor. I like how wide she's drawn in there. So she's going to be my top selection. And then I like that Kana Mama in here quite a bit. I think she's been an underrated type of horse. She's faced off against some of the better horses in this 3-year-old division. She's not ran into good here, but she ran into Lacara, who won, I believe, the Pocahontas at Churchill Downs. She ran a good effort to beat to her at the 1 mile at Churchill Downs. The 1 mile and 16, I think that's going to be right up her alley. If she's going to be able to save ground, hopefully get covered up inside. So this is the two I'm really looking at that race.
Yeah, Fondly was a little bit interesting to me. With only the 1 start, the morning line was 7-2. I'm interested to see what we get there, whether the betting public goes with that one as well, or if that one floated up a little bit. I'm with you. I think Fondly is a little bit intriguing. And finally, before we let you go, I just wanted to go back to yesterday because there was an impressive performance on the card. It was only a field of 3, but Bookham Dano's seasonal debut looked pretty good. 7 furlongs in 120.03, as they say. An impressive return for Bookham Dano.
Very impressive return for Bookham Dano. The time was lightning fast for that race. And if you watched it, it really didn't look like he was moving all that fast as he was. But for a 3-horse field, that's as good of a race as you're ever going to see.
Yeah, and again, he's been a fun horse to watch throughout the career, so it's going to be fun to watch this year. Just before we let you go, too, talk a little bit about Turfway Park season. You have to be pleased with it. I think the betting public has been enjoying it. There have been nights where it's been a little hard to predict, but you also read on social media people are walking away happy with cash tickets. So it has to be fun. I enjoy listening to my friend Tony calling down there every racing night. But what's the season been like at Turfway?
Turfway has been fantastic as usual. It's a bettor's paradise. The takeout is definitely on the lower side, and I think it's probably the lowest in the state of Kentucky. We got full fields, lots of different kinds of races to really sink your teeth into. So it's just been something that has been fantastic. It's continued to catch on each and every year. So we're expecting a really good week coming up next week for the Jeff Ruby Stakes program. It's going to be a daytime program on Saturday. So those fields should be drawn today, but lots of exciting stuff going forward at Turfway Park. Got 2 weeks left of the season, and I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, and it's certainly, as I say, been a lot of fun at this meet with some familiar names filling the entry box out there. It's become very popular, as you say, the last few years. Kaitlin, appreciate it. I know you're busy. We'll let you get back to work on a busy day down at Colonial, but we appreciate your taking the time. And we will have to check in within the next few weeks as we get closer to the Derby. After the crazy Derby selection last year, we'll check in before then, but we appreciate the conversation this morning.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to call back in, and we'll talk Kentucky Derby.
Appreciate it. Kaitlin Free, again, she'll be down there doing paddock commentary and whatnot, Colonial Downs on a big day with the Virginia Derby, Virginia Oaks undercard as well. And again, the Virginia Derby going off at about 5:10 and the Oaks scheduled for 4:25. And first post, that would be good as well. First post today right at noon. So keep that in mind, less than 2 hours away from the kickoff on that Virginia Derby card. All right, why don't we take a break? Gabe's a few minutes away. He'll come up at about 10:20 or so. So we have him a few minutes away, but we'll take a break. We'll come back and I'll do some news and notes in the meantime before we get to Gabe again a little bit later on. Gabe Prewitt on the sulky side of things, but I know we have a lot of sulky fans, and as they say, they put in some new things. They've announced some new things on the wagering menu and whatnot that are very intriguing. And so I wanted to get Gabe in the mix just to kind of set up the season that, again, started last night. I think there's 160 racing days. They'll go to I believe, November. So that'll be coming up in a few, but we'll take a break. News and notes after this. Stay tuned.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Welcome back. It's actually kind of a light, compared to the last few weeks, it's a light day of kind of stakes action across the country, highlighted perhaps by that Virginia, I think probably definitely by that Virginia Derby and Virginia Oaks card. Otherwise, it's a little light. Again, the last few weeks have just been blockbusters with various divisions and horses that are going to play in those divisions as the year goes forward. So it's a little bit quiet. But besides Colonial Downs, I just wanted to alert you, today at Oaklawn, there's a nice stakes race. Oaklawn's 10th today. Our time, it'll go off at about 6:15. The Whitmore Grade 3 event, $250,000 for sprinters going 6. And Tejano Twist is in here. Tejano Twist, trained by Chris Hartman, has put $1.5 million in the bank with 10 wins, 11 seconds in 38 starts. This is, a 6-year-old veteran coming off a win right here at this meet. Horse has a nice 9 exacta finish and 10 start record at Oaklawn, and that includes a win last time. Now, Flavian Prat was on board last time. We get Mr. Bacon, who's been making a little noise down there at Oaklawn. So there's a little bit of a jockey switch as Prat will be in Virginia. But Tejano Twist is interesting. Booth comes out of a win in a stake back at the end of February for Steve Asmussen. His son Eric was on board that day, back on board again today. But again, won the Commodore down there, but did it with a 105 buyer. Again, it's a fairly quick turnaround. That race was on February 24th. It's March 15th. So coming back from the triple-digit buyer on a turnaround like that, can we put a couple together? Jackson Traveler has been a very productive runner for our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds, and kind of a cross-country traveler. His last couple of starts were at Sunland and Zia. They were both wins. He had a couple of wins just prior to that at Remington, but he has a nice record at Oaklawn as well. A couple of wins and a second in 5 starts. He was in the Whitmore last year and won the Whitmore last year. So Jackson Traveler, a winner of over $1 million. As I said, he's been very productive. When you have these kind of partnerships, when you can get a horse like this who's still racing at 7, still racing competitively at 7, and has over $1 million in the bank, that is a really nice partnership kind of a horse. Certainly a nice horse for anybody, but for a partnership makes it a lot of fun. Miles Ahead comes out of a win the Thanksgiving back in November, as the name might indicate, at Fairgrounds. So stakes win with a triple-digit buyer, a 104. But this one's been off a little bit. Close the Game Sugar is interesting. It's an Adam Rice runner that last year won the Mahoney, 2 years ago won the Mahoney up at Saratoga, beat Skelly in a little bit of an upset, an 18-1 upset in the Aristides last June at Churchill. So that one's also interesting. It's a field of 9 scheduled. We'll see what happens scratch-wise, but it's a nice field for the Whitmore coming up again. Race 10 today at Oaklawn, about 6:15 our time. Keep that in mind. I also printed up, there it is. I mention this every once in a while. They put out a daily recap, NYRA does, and it gets sent out to various media spots and gives the winners for the day and prices and the pick 6 payout and whatnot. Winning favorite. It keeps track of favorites. Favorites so far at the Aqueduct meet, just a little under 38%. So a little higher than maybe the average would be over time. But I bring it up because they also print out the jockey and trainer standings. And at the 2025 Aqueduct Winter Meet, Manny Franco, really good meet, 59 winners. Jose Lezcano's 44. So there's a pretty good gap with Manny Franco leading the way. Jose Lezcano, 44. Kendrick Carmouche, he's having a nice meet, 39. Eric Cancel, 24. And Romero Mirage, 18. So, as I say, it's a really nice meet for Manny Franco, certainly, who has opened up a little gap. But I have been bringing it up for a while now. There's a big gap on the trainer side, too. Linda Rice, 44 wins. Rick Dutrow, 15. So there's about a 30-win gap there between first and second. Linda Rice on top, 44. Rick Dutrow, 15. Brad Cox, 12. There's a tie, fourth and fifth. There's a tie for fourth. Rudy Rodriguez and Rob Atras. So, again, Linda Rice running away with the trainer's side of things, and Manny Franco kind of doing the same on the jockey side of things as well. So there you have it as far as your leaders currently, the 2025 Aqueduct Winter Meet. All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will be joined by Gabe Prewitt. Again, he was just recently named the GM and VP out at Hoosier Park. They kicked off their season last night, but they've announced over the past few weeks some really interesting changes at the meet. And I wanted to delve in and talk about those a little bit. So Gabe will join us right after this. Stay tuned.
Coming right back, the American, the European, and it is theatrical in front. Trempolino driving hard, pull out into trying to get him, and here is the winner, and theatrical has won it. Absolutely spectacular.
You like free money? Well, Capital OTB gives its players plenty of opportunities to cash in. At Capital OTB, there are so many ways for horse players to receive bonus dollars by simply participating in promotions such as our bankrolls, bounty bets, online handicapping contests, and much, much more. Plus, with Capital OTB's Player Rewards program, you get actual cash back. So what are you waiting for? Log on today at CapitalOTB.com or CapitalOTBBet.com and claim your free money.
And it's the filly Winning Colours. Gary Stevens going to the whip left-handed. Just one crack though. It's Winning Colours turning in an absolutely outstanding performance. We're looking at one exceptional filly.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops, my bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised, we're joined now by Gabe Prewitt. And as I mentioned earlier, I was going to say it was a month ago. I think it was less than a month ago. The announcement was made. Gabe, VP and GM now out at Hoosier Park. Familiar with Gabe, obviously. The caller at Pompano, going back further, Buffalo. The Red Mile calls it the Red Mile. When America's Day at the races becomes America's Night at the races over at the Meadowlands, we see him on Fox as well. But with some of the announcements made vis-a-vis the changes at Hoosier Park, I wanted to get Gabe in to kind of set up the meet, which started last night. So, Gabe, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure to catch up.
Yeah, and we were talking before we went on the air. We're making our Florida Derby visit in a couple of weeks, but it was a few years ago. We were down there covering the Florida Derby, and I took my camera over to get up in the booth with you and talk with you a little bit, and John Barry over Pompano, because it was the last 2 or 3 weeks at Pompano. So we talked a little bit about that. We also talked a little bit about the infamous, I think infamous is correct, right? The match race between you and Pete Aiello. So we had a fun time when we were down at Pompano, and it's just, it's a shame there is no more Pompano.
It really is a shame. As excited as I am to be up at Hoosier Park, I wish we were still in South Florida. We could catch up on those Florida Derby times. It's always great when, South Florida obviously gets a lot of visitors in for Gulf Streams for their big events as well. We were fortunate to have, guests like yourself pop in from time to time. We always enjoyed that. So good run down there. We miss it, each and every day for that matter. But we had a very good run. Lots of great memories.
Yeah, and it was fun. Whenever I was down for the Florida Derby, one of those trips, I'd make a definite trip over to Pompano. I cut my teeth on the harness side of the game. I'm from this upstate New York area, and when I was a kid, I'd go to the harness track. Summer nights at the harness track were great, Saratoga Harness. And so now I concentrate a little more on thoroughbreds, but I still make plenty of trips to the harness track and enjoy the harness side of things. And talk a little bit about, we got a shot of Hoosier, a nice little aerial shot that you guys put out on social media. That's a gorgeous picture. Talk a little bit about Hoosier and your hiring, just as I say, fairly recently. Congratulations on that. But what was the move to Hoosier like?
Well, thank you. A little bit still in transition, back and forth right now from Lexington. Beautiful facility, as you can see, that aerial shot. But it was an opportunity that I just thought the place, it's a first-class facility. They've hosted the Breeders' Crown a few times now. It's harness racing's, premier event, sort of, like the Breeders' Cup on the thoroughbred side. Good racing product, big track. I just thought that, there's a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity. I obviously love the grind of a long racing season. We have 160 days here. As you said, night one's in the book. Started off really well. Bet right at $1 million on the opening night. So that was really huge for us.
Nice.
Up substantially. We changed up quite a bit of the betting menu. We've, to my knowledge, probably the only track to offer 4 12% takeout bets, at least for a signature type wager. We've got 2 12% pick fours on each card, and we've got 2 12% high fives on each card. We eliminated the jackpot pick six. We put in a traditional pick six, lowered the takeout on that wager along with pick five as well, down to 15. So just made plenty of changes, and it was nice to see, at least on opening night, you start to have a little momentum then. But with the fans seemed to enjoy it, respond, and we had a great night and a great lively crowd on track too. Really a cool place to watch a race. If anyone's ever in the area, and speaking of which, Horseshoe, which hosts a lot of great events on the thoroughbred side, is about 45 or 50 minutes away. So if anybody's ever in the area, even to come out and watch the race at the Horseshoe, it's a short drive through a couple of cornfields, and you'll end up at beautiful Hoosier Park.
I like that. You can do the double. Up here, I have done the. I've done
the Kaitlin Red Mile doubles.
I've done it many times up here during the Saratoga Thoroughbred season. You're the afternoon over at the Thoroughbred track, and across the street. First, you grab a little dinner, then across the street for some harness action. It is not unusual, and I highly recommend it. I was looking at the card last night. I think you probably had some people walk away with smiles on their faces. It was kind of logical last night over a 14 race card, and I'm looking at the website here. It looks like early on your Friday and Saturday, then it'll go to a Thursday through Saturday card, then Wednesday through Saturday when you get into April and June, and Tuesday through Saturday when you get to the summertime.
Yeah, that's right. We'll sort of stagger it up.
Yeah.
But, one thing was a little unfortunate catching up with a lot of our horsemen up here when we got into town was, I guess the winter was very tough in this part of the country, and a lot of just behind, quite frankly. Their horses are still, a week or 2 weeks away from qualifying where, typically they'd be ready to roll, for opening night. So we heard a little bit with field sizes last night. I think last year's opening night, they averaged, 9.3 horses. We averaged like 7.3 last night. Tonight's a little rough on that end too, but I expect the Fox really to bulk up, moving forward as plenty of horses are actually, in fact, we're qualifying right now. So we've got another 50 some horses that'll be, ready to go after this morning. And I expect those field sizes to step up. That's really going to help, with some of the carryovers and whatnot. We'll get these good competitive fields. So I think, last night was a great start, but I really think bigger, better things to come.
Yeah, as you say, they were sending it in, to use a phrase last night, but that was just a warm up, I'm sure. How does that work with the qualifying? Is it horses who have been off a certain amount of time have to run in a qualifier?
Yeah, there's a 45-day rule.
Okay.
Yeah, each jurisdiction's a little different. So if you don't have a race line within 45 days, you have to qualify, which, for those out there that may not be as familiar with harness racing, it's sort of like a work in the thoroughbred side. It's a true race. You go behind the gate and race with other horses. And it basically just gives the gambler, the players out there, a charted line. So you can sort of gauge where they're at. Now, we're one of the tracks that we do show our qualifiers live on YouTube. The replays are up there as well. So, for handicapping purposes, you don't miss a beat. You can watch the entire qualifier. And, I think it's particularly on the harness side, it's all about how horses finishing. You might see, chart, as that doesn't really tell you all the stories. It's nice to see visually and offer that to the handicappers out there as well.
No, in my handicapping days, that was what I circled always in the program, that last quarter time.
Right. Oh, yeah, very important. And we have one of the longest stretches in racing here, too. So you see some very fast last quarters at Hoosier. I mean, it's 1,255 feet, with the exception of Hawthorne, which is a dual breed. We have the longest stretch in harness racing.
And I'll ask you, I'm always amazed that, I've been around a lot longer than you have. And as I say, I was a kid when I started becoming interested in the Saratoga harness side of things. And man, when I went to the track in the early days, you broke 2 minutes. Flares went up. There were fireworks. And now these days, it's just amazing. Now you look and a few times a year, they're breaking 150. And I think as compared to the thoroughbred side of things, where there hasn't been that much of a change, they get faster, but incrementally, there's just been a tectonic kind of a change in the harness game. But I think a lot of it is due to the equipment. The sulkies have changed and whatnot, and it's become a little different. But it clearly has changed quite a bit. And as I say, it's a lot more routine. In fact, it's probably less of a thing now. It's more eye-popping when they don't break 2 minutes in the game these days.
It's crazy. Obviously we have to draw the line somewhere, but we just continue to get faster and faster. Bulldog Hanover, a horse that I think a lot of people would remember from a couple of years back. He's now the fastest ever, 1:45 and 4. Incredible. 2 minutes used to be sort of the huge standard, so to speak, of if you broke that, you're really doing something. But the equipment is 100%. I think one of the biggest reasons. I think there are two. That's the race bikes have become, phenomenally long way. I mean, they're aerodynamics, the weight of the bike, how the driver sits. You're light years above where you were even, 10, 15 years ago. And the other thing is we're breeding now for speed. The breed has evolved. Standardbred used to be such a durable bred. We were known for heat racing. I mean, there were races required you to win possibly 2 or 3 races in the same day. 20 or 30 years ago. So instead of, Standardbred, being a big, durable type horse, you're seeing more of a sleek, athletic, and we've just continued over and over to breed for speed. So I think that to go along with the equipment is just, brought the breed to where we are now.
Yeah, it has definitely changed. Yeah, until you brought that up, I hadn't thought that there was the day with the 3 heats a horse might have to go in one afternoon. Yet unthinkable. Also want to talk, you talked about, and again, I mentioned you guys have announced over the past few weeks some of the changes. You mentioned the 4-12% takeout wagers, pick 4s and pick 5s. So there will be a lot of fun for people. I know people love both of those wagers, and you get in for that low takeout. That's big. But also you announced, and I went and I checked out on the website, you have free PPs for every program. If folks go to the Hoosier Park website, you'll find free past performances. And I think they're they're really nice past performance. I mean, it's not like a little cheapy past performance. It's a very comprehensive past performance. If you pull it up online, you click on the date of the race, you can pull up a chart. So I would certainly recommend people checking that out and using that, taking advantage of that to play into Hoosier. But then there's one aspect of it that people commented online, and I have to admit, again, I've been following the game for a long time, and I was completely unaware of this, but you have driver's choices. And you can see it here. I have a shot on the screen. It's highlighted in red there. A certain driver picked the 1 over the 4. How is that determined? This is a whole new concept to me. I like it, but I never realized that was a thing.
Yeah, it is very important for handicapping. I mean, I can remember back in the days, before all this information was readily accessible, it was a huge angle because if you were one of the ones that could get you could literally just grab an overnight sheet. Because the harness side, it's different than thoroughbreds. When you enter your horse, you can list any driver of your choosing. So you literally list the driver. Once that overnight sheet comes out, the drivers by the next morning, they look at the sheet and they have to make their decisions. So if they're listed on, 2 or 3 horses, they just pick which ones they want. And then, obviously, whoever's left without a driver has to, choose from whoever's left. So, for instance, Wally Hennessy at Pompano, he'd be listed sometimes on 4 or 5 horses in a race, and it was sort of always a little bit of a key angle to see who he would take. We don't really have a city of Trace Dietrich's been our leading driver, but no one's is really just going to be listed on that extreme amount of horses, I think, at Hoosier. But last night there were a couple instances where a trainer would have 2 horses in the same race. And they would, obviously when they entered, they didn't know they were going to draw in the same race. So they would list their main driver, and, it would really tip their hand a little bit on maybe who they like from the barn, of who their main guy ended up on. So I just think it's just one, you can't have enough information, right? It's just one extra thing that we want to put out there for the fans. And, we've directed our program department to, hold up, let's get those driver changes, let's get them out there for more information for our gamblers.
Like I said, I think it's great. I feel like I'm sitting out unaware of something that has been going on for years. And then I saw it on social media, and I saw it in the program, and that kind of explains it. So the races are drawn, and drivers may be named on more than one horse, and so they have to make a selection, and that happens before the program is printed.
That's correct. Yeah. Yes, they make the selection. So you got basically scratch time will be the next morning. So these guys have a day to, we'll send out a proof, which obviously is just like a program with, out of the odds or anything. These drivers, the good ones will really study it. I mean, hard to determine what horse, there are different things that lie into it. I mean, everyone's different. Some drivers are very loyal to a certain trainer, a certain barn, or a certain owner possibly. So you kind of have to take that into consideration. Maybe they took a little lesser horse because out of loyalty. Some guys are just win-win-win. They'll try and take the absolute best horse anytime in any race. So you sort of learn driver tendencies over time as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to now pay a little attention to that too. If the driver and the trainer he went in the other direction from have the same last name, I'm going to feel like, well, if he's going away from his brother or his father or whatever, maybe there's some intent there.
If they're too closely related, then we'll make them stick. Yeah, exactly.
And again, those are free programs that are available on the website. Really, it looks like a fun season coming up. Again, it kicked off last night. I know we have a lot of Selke fans out in the audience, me being one of them. I'll certainly be taking a look at Hoosier and some of those pick plays as well. Anything else I haven't covered, Gabe?
Well, one other thing that we did do that's just sort of a bit interesting out there for the fans, you're probably familiar with some of the smaller, New York tracks with the passing lane.
Right.
Inside.
I'm glad you brought that up because I had a couple of pictures of that. I'm glad you brought that up. I had it in my notes. I almost missed that. And I wanted to ask you because as a bettor, I didn't realize that was controversial. I thought that was like a great addition, but it seems like your drivers are no. So now you guys are taking away the passing lane.
Polarizing. It's one of the rare topics in harness racing that everyone seems to have a strong opinion on one way or the other, for instance. But, we really put out sort of a call to our gamblers. When right the moment we got here, I would read a little bit over the years about, the controversy. I think it just all boils down to the size of the track. If you're a half-mile track like a Saratoga or a Buffalo, sometimes, the stretch, it's a short stretch.
Yeah, that
you don't
makes
have
sense.
much time.
Yeah.
When it opens up, you've got room. But really what it does, several folks have asked me, what could possibly be wrong with the passing lane? Why would you want to take it out? So, really the thought process in taking it out is really you're helping the entirety of the race. Because what, and I didn't watch it as closely, I must admit, but what fans seem to be, the thought process of what was happening is the race was lining up, everybody would rush out of there for a quarter of a mile, and then they would sit. The movement would be sort of none throughout the entirety of the race, the middle half mile or so, because they knew they could get through in a stretch, so they would just sit and wait for this long home stretch, and it sort of made, the rest of the race very boring, once they lined up. We wanted to remove that, put the thought in everyone's mind that they may not get out through the stretch. So last night we did see, again, field sizes were not as great as we would have liked to have had, but we saw a lot of action and a lot of movement. So, if that continues, I think that, the fans will see a big difference in the racing product and how the races are, how they go in the flow of the race. So, if that's what happens, if we see more flow, if we see more action, I think it's going to be a good change.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I did get the chance to ask you because that's a perfectly good explanation. It makes sense that, a smaller track, it maybe the passing lane is a little more worthwhile, but I could see where the drivers at one of the big tracks, I got the whole stretch and I got that passing lane, would kind of sit a little more. So it makes for a little more interesting. Now I'm going to be intrigued to watch even more some of the Hoosier. Like I say, as a bettor, I always thought, the passing lane makes a lot of sense, but it probably is a little more sense, makes a little more sense on the smaller tracks than something the size of Hoosier. So, intriguing. All right. Gabe, really appreciate the conversation. And again, congratulations on the VP GM title out at Hoosier Park. Will we still see you occasionally on America's Day at the Races doing a little harness commentary?
Yes, that's the plan. Plan to, pop out for several of those broadcasts. We love working with those guys. That's a great team, and always good to showcase our sport, to as many folks as we can. So, looking forward to that this summer.
Yeah, we broadcast from the backstretch live at Saratoga every summer, and we have some of the NYRA folks come over and talk. And I always say that America's Day at the Races, it's good for, the tracks that are on, but it's good for the industry as a whole just to kind of spread the word to a larger audience. And it's fun also those nights when you were in and Acacia and some of the other crew there as well to kind of give a little push to the harness side of things. And hopefully we gave a little push to the harness side, particularly with Hoosier, because again, I think you've made some nice changes coming up for this 2025 meet. So Gabe, we appreciate the conversation. Good luck going forward. We'll talk again.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you, my friend, and invite everyone out to Hoosier Park if they get a chance to come and see us.
Very good. Gabe Prewitt again, VP GM of racing out at Hoosier Park, and they kicked off their meet last night. Check it out. Again, go to the website. You can pick up free programs, a lot of great information there. And their wagering menu offers some very, very nice opportunities as well. So keep it in mind. All right, we'll take another break. When we come back, more news and notes. Kentucky Derby and Oaks future pools are open. We'll maybe take a look at some of those runners and more right after this. Stay tuned.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Congratulations and thanks to everybody who stopped by yesterday. Clubhouse Racebook, Happy Hour Bankroll. Appreciate everybody who stopped by to take part and put your name in the hat. And congratulations to the 10 folks selected to the team because we did make a little money. It's been a nice little run. And I'm not really patting myself on the back. I wasn't knocking any grand slams, but we made everybody some money. Month and a half ago, 2 months ago, we had a happy hour bankroll, and it coincided with a pick 5 carryover at golf. Oh, speaking of that, there's a pick 5 carryover today, the late pick 5 at Tampa. So keep that in mind. Late pick 5 at Tampa. And I know people love those carryovers. So again, at Tampa today, they carried over. Let me see if I can quickly pull it up here. And give you the exact numbers on that. And if I can, I will. Where are we here? Okay, I don't know what happened there. There we go. I'm trying to pull up Jason Beam's Twitter account because I know he tweeted out something about it. There we go. From Tampa Bay Downs itself, 12 minutes ago. Today's late 50-cent pick 5 wager, which begins in the 5th race, opens with a carryover of $43,000. So that will balloon up nicely. Again, that's today at Tampa. The late pick 5, $43,000 carryover starts in race number 5. So keep that in mind, Tampa today. But again, the happy hour bankroll, it was a month and a half, 2 months ago, coincided on a Friday afternoon with the pick 5 carryover at Gulfstream. So we added a little more money to the pot I was playing with so I could concentrate a little bit with that on the pick 5. We managed to hit the pick 5, which wasn't huge, but we hit that and something else. And so everybody walked away with a little pile of cash. Not huge, but it was okay. And then 2 weeks ago, I want to say everybody got $25, man, 28. I wound up with 280, I think. So there were 10 people in, 28. Yesterday it was nice. We hit a few things throughout the day, but one of them was my play of the day. And Wednesday through Friday now on social media, have a play of the day and a wager of the day. My wagers of the day this week got kind of hurt with scratches of the horses I was concentrating on. So the wagers, but yesterday's play of the day, which is just a horse I like, a single horse, $1 Gulfstream at $28. And so since it was a price and it was my play of the day, obviously I had to jump on that one with the bankroll. And so we had some win place money. We hit the exacta there. So we wound up, the bankroll at the end of the day was $317. So the 10 people split up. Everybody walked away with just about $32. So again, not huge, but it's free money. You show up, you enjoy a day here at the Clubhouse Racebook, playing and watching the races. And at the end of the day, you're handed $32, free money, courtesy of Capital OTB. So keep your eyes open for future happy hour bankrolls, because again, seems like we're on a little bit of a roll, and some of the other promotions and events as well, because you can get a chance to win some money. King of the Hill contest is here tomorrow. Last couple of weeks, that's been hit. 2 weeks ago, somebody walked away with $400, I think, dollars. So again, the promotions really going back to last summer. The play of the day with Steve Bick and the Brooklyn Cowboy. A lot of people walked away with some nice money there, and just some of our other promos and contests and events have been kind of lucrative, again, going back to last summer and beyond, but there's been a nice string going back. So you can always check out promotions and events also via the website. Click on the promotions link and then look for the events calendar, and it will give you what's coming up online or at our various locations. NHC started yesterday, National Handicapping Championship. I went through the list a couple of days ago on the NTRA website and picked out players that were from, generally the Albany, Saratoga area. I found about 10 folks. Some were familiar with, others I don't know, but certainly rooting for. One of our guys that we're rooting for is Don Chung. Don is a regular here at the Clubhouse Racebook, a very good contest player. He's in. Bob Weir, I have Kim Weir on the show talking about Therapeutic Horses of Saratoga. Had her on a couple of weeks ago because they had a nice event up in Saratoga. But her husband, Bob, is actually part of the Beyer figure team, but he qualified this year. Don Wildermuth from Saratoga, we had him on the show. We were out at the NHC for a couple of years, going back a few years, and Don had qualified one of those years. And because he was a local, we pulled him in. Paul Matisse from Boston Spa, who won the contest a few years back. He and his brother Duke sitting with us often up at Saratoga. That said, at the end of the contest started yesterday, ended the day yesterday. I looked. Our locals aren't really making any noise, but it's day one. Things can change completely day two. You're not out of it, and everybody has a little something in the bank. The leader is someone named Dan Piazza, who is not a local, but that is the leader of the contest. $167 and change. Our top, I'm just looking to make sure, our top local performer, not familiar with them, but a local, I'm over in the Boston Spa area, but from Malta, Joe Kelly. He's sitting at 195, which is good. There are 623 individuals, but some of those have 2 entries. So there are 800 entries. So 195 of 800. The cut line is at the end of today, and people who make it to Sunday, everybody makes some kind of money, and it's the top 10%. So you want it, there's 800 entries, you want to be in the top 80. So you're sitting 195. Again, a lot can change today. And as I say, everybody, all the locals that I saw on the list of 10 that I have, Clifton Park, Troy, Saratoga, Boston Spa, Poughkeepsie. There's a gentleman from my hometown, Amsterdam, not familiar with him, but certainly, again, rooting for the various locals. They all have some money in the bank, and they all have the opportunity to move up. But as I say, they currently, the best of the locals is Joe Kelly, 195. Leader has $167. Joe Kelly at 195 has 73. That is, makeable distance. And that's the leader. As I say, you just have to jump up to 80, number 80 to make the cut line. So be interesting to watch. And again, Steve Bick is out there, does a great job with his radio show. Go to his website, stevebick.com, click on Listen Live. He'll be there. I'm not sure. He usually kicks off a little later in the day because, it's a long day out there in Vegas. There's a 2-hour difference. They pick up Southern California races. So he'll kick in a little bit later in the day probably. But it's fun to listen to as he brings over some of the major players on the handicapping scene as the afternoon progresses. So again, we'll keep our eyes on that as well to keep up with some of the local performers. As I mentioned earlier, there is a Kentucky Derby future pool this week. There is also a Kentucky Oaks future pool. And again, things changed a couple of years ago when they went from 24 entries to 40 entries. All others at 24 had a lot of punch. Now, as you get a little later, the all others is a little less attractive, unless it jumps up to certain odds. But you have more opportunity for single entries in here. Lacara coming out of the second place finish in the Devona Dale, where I thought she ran okay behind the Queen's MG. I'm still kind of on board her off of that Suncoast win the starter season back early in February. So Lacara for Marquesi, 20-1 on the morning line. And I didn't see, maybe I could pull that up as well. Because betting started yesterday. Oaks Pool and Derby Pool started yesterday. Derby Pool will close today tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Derby Pool closes tomorrow, Sunday, at 6 o'clock. The Oaks Pool closes tomorrow, Sunday, at 6:30. There's also a Oaks Derby future double that I would think would be a lot of fun. So you can keep that in mind as well. And let me just see, I'm kind of crawling along a little slowly here. But if I could pull it up, we can maybe update some of those odds after yesterday. And again, if you have somebody that you're looking at who is running in either the Virginia Oaks or the Virginia Derby, you want to wait for those races to become official, because it will clearly affect the odds. All right, let me see if I can get the Oaks future pool. And excuse my kind of looking here. There we go. There is a separate Oaks Derby pool that you can click on. All right, here we go. So Lacara, 20-1, 33-1. That's interesting to me. Quiet Side, what are we getting there? I think that is a nice 18-1. That's a little slim. Again, these future pools, I'm looking for 20 or 25-1 and higher. Mahima, again, had a little bit of a setback, which maybe scared people away. But Mahima had been undefeated before that. A Brad Cox runner, 27-1. That looks interesting and perhaps generous. Tenma is a player to me, 14-1, but the odds are a little slim. The Queen's MG, 19-1 in there. All others, 15-1. 15-1 on all others might be a little bit interesting, particularly in the Oaks pool. I could see somebody sneaking in. Eclatant is an interesting runner for Brad Cox at 42-1. And again, these are Oaks runners, Oaks future pool. 5G for George Weaver, 23-1. Good Cheer is currently the favorite, 3-1. 3-1, way too short for a future pool. Go Wells Delight, who, again, I liked today in the Virginia Derby, but Ken McPeak, I read last night, was going to scratch, and the horse is a scratch today, but they're pointing for another spot. Go Wells Delight at 95-1. Take another look there. I will definitely have a couple of bucks on Go Wells Delight there. Also, there is a Derby future wager. And I will say, typically, there are free PPs over on the Kentucky Derby Future Pool website. You go to KentuckyDerby.com, click on the wager link, and then you can click on the future wager side of things. And typically over the years, they have put up free PPs. The last couple of pools, I haven't seen it, and I looked last night and I didn't see it, but I found mine. If you're a Capital OTB Bets patron, you can pull up your free PPs there. So keep that in mind. There are free PPs, both the Oaks and the Kentucky Derby future pool. But looking at the current odds for Derby, East Avenue at 81-1. And I will say, that's probably off of the dud in the Risen Star. That's probably kind of deservedly so. Baeza, who I think is an interesting runner, 95-1, 17-1 on Barnes. Again, if you like Barnes, that might be okay, but 25-1 more intriguing to me. Burnham Square, 28-1, I think is legit. Built from Wayne Catalano, 78-1. Chancellor McPatrick, 24-1. That's flirting with being something you could look at. Citizen Bull sits at 8-1. That's definitely too short. Coal Battle at 10-1. That's too short. East Avenue, as I say, 81-1, but that last dud I wouldn't be too. Flood Zone, I think, is very interesting off the win in New York last time for Brad Cox. Going to go over to the UAE Derby and try that, but 35-1 on Flood Zone. Getaway Car. Now, here's one that the weekend will not help. Getaway Car from Bob Baffert off a win in the Sunland Derby, 50-1. But, he wins or runs well today in Virginia. That comes way down. And he runs badly. So you definitely, on getaway car, you definitely want to wait until the race is run and decide from there. But 50-1 is certainly attractive. John Hancock is 30-1. Journalism, current favorite at 6-1. Again, that's too short. Owen Almighty, 33-1. That's attractive. Prater for Chad Brown, 75. River Thames. I'll have a little on River Thames if this holds. River Thames is at 78-1. Rodriguez at 99-1. Sand Devil at 99-1. Sandman, the Marquesi horse, 20-1. Sovereignty is 9-1. Tapan Street, and I think I'm pronouncing it correctly that way, is I think the horse is named after an actual street that is pronounced Tapan. So I'm going to go with that. 88-1 there for the Brad Cox runner. All other 3-year-olds at 15-1. So there are some intriguing odds, both the Oaks pool and the Derby pool. And again, Derby pool will close tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Oaks future pool closes at 6:30. And again, there's an Oaks Derby future double as well. And just one other thing that I found interesting in the news yesterday, Mary Rampolini in the Racing Forum, Oaklawn considering shifting to a 4-day race week next meet. Now, since they went to the earlier opening in December, they were just doing shortened 3-day weeks. Essentially keeping kind of the same number of days, just spread out over a longer period because they started in December. But Oaklawn is very popular, and so it's nice to see, in the current state of affairs of the horse racing game in general, Oaklawn to say, we want to maybe take a little different approach and go a little longer. Now, they do have a limit on the days by law, so that may kind of throw a monkey wrench into things. We'll see how that all works out. But it could be interesting because they're also saying, if you remember, there was the weekend earlier this year where they had to cancel their big stakes day from a Saturday because of weather and move it to a Sunday. Well, it turns out they were pretty happy with the Sunday results. Crowd was good. The handle was good. So they're thinking about next year also having some big races on Sundays. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. Again, with Oaklawn really being one of the bright spots on the American racing scene over the past, 10 years or so with the Sella family. That built the casino, used that money and built up racing and have done a good job with it. And now talking about having a little bit of a different feel to the meet next year, going to a 4-day week, perhaps still being discussed, and with kind of big Sundays as well. All right, let me hit you with the promos coming up today. If you are a patron out in the direction of Broadway Lanes, the Broadway Lanes Easy Bet, we'd love to have you stop on by and enjoy a fan appreciation day, food, vouchers, PPs, a contest where you can win a little extra something. That's all at the Broadway Lanes Easy Bet this afternoon. Stop by and say hello so we can say thank you. Tomorrow here at the Clubhouse Racebook King of the Hill contest. Come have a little extra fun. You can watch the sports on our sports screens, college basketball, playoff time, conference tournaments and whatnot. Watch those, grab a little lunch at Black Bear, and play the King of the Hill contest. That's tomorrow afternoon. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right. Thanks earlier to Kaitlin Free for stopping by. And again, she'll be on the broadcast for Virginia Derby and Virginia Oaks down at Colonial, highlighting the weekend there. There's that nice Whitmore down at Oaklawn. Keep that in mind. Thanks also to Gabe Prewitt. And again, if you're on the sulky side of things, Hoosier underway with a high-quality product and a nice betting menu, the free programs online. Keep all that in mind. If you don't usually look at the sulky side, well, maybe some evening, check it out because it is a good product. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for Saturday morning here on Racing Across America. We'll be back in tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Racing Across America. As typical on a Sunday, we'll recap some of today's stakes action and more. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, we will be back in a couple hours for OTB Live on a Sunday afternoon, Saturday afternoon. I went one day ahead there. Again, Colonial is going to kick off at noontime today. And just looking at our, here we go, 12:50, yeah, 12:50 and 1:10. Gulfstream at 12:50, Aqueduct at 1:10. So I'll be back, as I say, a couple hours or so because we'll sit back on the sidelines while the NYRA pregame show goes. And, but we will be dropping in those Colonial races and whatnot. So stay tuned for all of that. But again, back in for a live look. I have a little Gulfstream, a little Aqueduct this afternoon. We may look at some Colonial as well. I have the whole Colonial card on the one sheet also, if you want to check that out, capitalotv.com, and click on the handicapping link, then handicapper support. Nice printable sheet with picks. Gulfstream, Aqueduct, Colonial. Brian Edo has his matrix on there as well. So you can always check that out on most racing days. Otherwise, let's wrap it up. Seth Merrow on a Saturday. Appreciate your tuning in. Back in a couple hours for OTB Live. We'll see you then. We would like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park's championship meet runs now through March 30th with high-quality action throughout, including the Florida Derby on Saturday, March 29th.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.